It's Monday, November 19th. The Central Bureau of Investigation will no longer be able to carry out searches, raids, or investigations in Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal without express permission from the two state governments. This is a result of the withdrawal of what is referred to as general consent to investigate any case in the state by the Chandrababu Naidu and Mamata Banerjee governments. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal has also backed the move, citing what he said was the misuse of the CBI and the IT department by the Modi government. Section 6 of the law that governs the CBI, the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, specifies that the CBI cannot exercise powers and jurisdiction in any area without the consent of the government of that state. TDP chief Chandrababu Naidu, who has emerged as the leader rallying non-NDA parties for the formation of an alternate front, has accused the BJP of conspiring with Jagan Reddy's YSR Congress to topple his government in Andhra Pradesh by using the CBI. No big CBI case is presently under investigation in Andhra Pradesh. The Moin Qureshi and Sana Satish Babu cases with connections to Hyderabad are registered in Delhi. BSP chief Mayawati has also alleged the use of the CBI for political purposes. Almost immediately after an alliance between the Bahujan Samaj Party and the Samajwadi Party was fixed up in Uttar Pradesh in May, the CBI decided to launch a fresh investigation into a previous case of alleged corruption against Mayawati. Now, the use of the CBI as a political tool is not new. Let's take a brief look at the fall from grace of the CBI, often referred to as India's premier investigating agency. The CBI's involvement in partisan politics, it could be argued, goes back to the mid-90s. The agency was seen as dragging its feet in the bribery case of 4 MPs of the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, in which former Prime Minister Narasimha Rao was accused. In the Jain Hawala diary scandal of the 90s, in which bribes were allegedly paid to politicians of both the BJP and the Congress, the Supreme Court had accused the CBI of not acting against politically powerful people. In an effort to remedy that, the top court placed the agency under the control of the Central Vigilance Commission. More recently, the Supreme Court hauled up the CBI for tardiness in investigating the 2G case as well as allegations of corruption in allocation of coal deposits. It is while hearing the coal scam case in 2013 that the Supreme Court described the agency as a caged parrot speaking in its master's voice and accused it of tailoring its investigations to suit the suggestions of government officials. Eminent jurist Fali Nariman had described the compromised functioning of the CBI as not by notes on files, but by nods and winks. There is, of course, the latest near implosion of the agency, with the CBI raiding its own offices in a case of alleged corruption against Special Director Rakesh Asthana, who is seen to be close to Prime Minister Modi. In response, the union government launched a virtual coup against the CBI director, sealing his office at midnight and sending him on leave. The matter is under challenge in the Supreme Court. November 19th will be a day of reckoning for central bank independence and the Indian economy. Former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram has rather ominously declared of the crucial RBI board meeting today that comes amid tensions between the central government and the central bank. Multiple news reports have suggested the meeting could find common ground on some contentious issues. In an earlier episode of Your Morning Fix, we have detailed the flashpoints between the central bank and the central government. Now, the Reserve Bank of India, some reports say, is likely to let some banks out of its prompt and corrective action framework, allowing them to lend more. There are 21 public sector banks. Currently, 11 of these banks are operating under emergency measures, the prompt and corrective action framework of the RBI that restricts fresh lending. News agency PTI also says there are indications the RBI may create a special dispensation for lending to small and medium enterprises, but it wasn't immediately clear if an agreement has been worked out to ease the liquidity situation for non-banking finance companies and the RBI parting with a substantial part of its surplus. That last point is by all accounts the most contentious. The government is reportedly of the view that the RBI is sitting on excess capital and must transfer some of it to meet fiscal targets. The Reserve Bank of India has been transferring its annual profits entirely to the government as dividend in the last 5 years, but is unwilling to touch the stock of reserves on its balance sheet. Now, you're also likely to have heard calls for lowering capital adequacy norms. What's that? Capital adequacy ratio is defined as the bank's capital in relation to its risk-weighted assets and current liabilities. The banking regulator decides this ratio aimed at preventing commercial banks from taking excess leverage and potentially becoming insolvent. Now, the Basel III norms stipulated a capital to risk-weighted assets of 8%. As per RBI norms, though, Indian scheduled commercial banks are required to maintain a capital adequacy ratio of 9%, while Indian public sector banks have to maintain a capital adequacy ratio of 12%. The Mint quotes an official as saying, "The government is of the view there is no need for capital requirements that are stricter than Basel norms. It is hindering the lending capacity of banks and the government's efforts of financial inclusion." Now, RBI Deputy Governor N.S. Viswanathan had earlier dismissed calls for lowering capital adequacy norms for lenders and matching them with global levels. He said the capital requirements are high for domestic lenders because of higher bad loans. He warned that lowering capital adequacy norms merely for aligning them with global standards will create make-believe strong banks. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was the only head of government in attendance as Ibrahim Soli, the joint opposition candidate who defeated the pro-China Abdullah Yamin, took the oath of office in the Maldivian capital of Malé. A reset in India-Maldives ties that had recently been under considerable strain, Soli made clear was an order. Highlighting the crippling debt Maldives has run up with China as part of the controversial Belt and Road Initiative, Soli said, "As I take over the presidency, the state's financial situation is precarious. The damage done due to projects conducted only for political reasons and at a loss are huge." Soli's transition team was quoted by Reuters as saying it had been told the country owed $1.5 billion to Chinese lenders, but fear it could be much higher. Even a debt of $1.5 billion would be more than a quarter of the country's annual gross domestic product. For China, Maldives is a key link in its Belt and Road Initiative and is part of its Maritime Silk Road plan. China's aggressive use of the debt for leverage model, signed off on by Soli's predecessor, saw India losing its grip in the region where it once enjoyed primacy. Following a meeting between Modi and Soli right after the swearing-in, a joint statement released said, both leaders agreed on the importance of maintaining peace and security in the Indian Ocean and being mindful of each other's concerns and aspirations for the stability of the region. The previous Maldivian government was sitting on the renewal of more than 2,000 work permits of Indian workers. There are over 25,000 Indians, workers, doctors, teachers and managers in that country. In a bid to resolve that matter, the joint statement said, recognizing that nationals of both countries travel extensively between the two countries, the leaders also agreed on the need for facilitating easier visa procedures. The throat-slit body of a 19-year-old was recovered from Shopian in Kashmir on Saturday. PTI quoted a police official as saying, terrorists Saturday killed a civilian in a brutal act of terror in Shopian district after he was kidnapped earlier in the day from Saidpura area. The killing comes just days after another teenager, 17-year-old Nadeem Manzoor, was abducted and killed execution style in Pulwama, allegedly for being an informant for security forces. On Friday, an unverified video of that execution went viral on social media. Condemning the killings, National Conference leader Omar Abdullah tweeted, another dastardly killing of a young man, this time the terrorist slit his throat. This barbarism has no place in our society, and no struggle, no matter how lofty the claims to justify it, can condone this inhuman behavior. PDP leader Naim Akhtar warned if you pick up guns citing persecution as a reason you're worse than any persecutor, condemn these dastardly killings, you are bringing disaster to the land and disrepute to all of us. You cannot complain of atrocities anymore. And finally, if you've been flummoxed with the many developments on the Brexit deal front, The British Prime Minister declaring her cabinet support, then ministers quitting her cabinet, and so on. Well, here is a BBC Sign Language interpreter saying it as it is.
Sides in all parties, both pro and anti-Brexit, over her agreement. It was,
This clip, tweeted by writer and actor Elle Porter, has gone viral with close to 4 million views. Love your morning fix? Help support our journalism. Subscribe to Scroll Plus using the link in the description.